What's going on, everyone? So, Los Angeles Lakers have had a lot of success this offseason, getting guys via buyout and guys getting waived, free agency in general, right? And I know the Los Angeles Lakers, they can't sign anybody until they make a trade, but Rob Pelinka himself said that he is looking for now moves, right? He's still exploring the potential for various trades. Also, Luka Doncic, now that he's committed long term, and he's made it very clear he wants to win now. Same thing with LeBron James, right? Recent reports say that LeBron James is still monitoring the Lakers roster, and that both players, both of their stars, want to win now. So any little things that you can do to add talent or add players that could maybe have an impact, I'm assuming that the Lakers would be interested in that, right? You have several names that are out on the market that are kind of, we're all just kind of waiting around on. And I've talked about the closer we get to training camp and stuff, so we're still about 2 months away, but the closer we move towards training camp, the more names you're going to start to hear, the more free agents that are going to become available, the more guys that end up getting bought out and stuff. That's usually how it goes. Now, it could be different this season, just because, look at the buyouts early on in particular. But you're going to have a lot of teams that are going to have a lot of guys that are going to go to training camp that they're going to end up clearing the deck to get it down to their, 14, 15-man roster. And that's where the Lakers can maybe thrive. And the Miami Heat are a team that is considering waiving. So the Miami Heat are considering waiving Simone Fontecchio, who many of you might be familiar with, kind of this sharpshooter, right, 3-and-D style guy. Defense can be a little wonky, but he's a guy that has kind of the capabilities to be a knockdown three-point shooter, a guy that can play on ball, play off ball, create a little bit for himself, create a little bit for others, right? Defensively, he has his moments and his stretches. He's not really this absolute clamp defender, but he is a guy that, if you could get him for free, right, then I would absolutely get that. The thing, though, is that the reason that the Miami Heat are considering waiving Simone is because they want to avoid the luxury tax. They want to get under the tax. So if they can waive him and get off of him, then they'd be able to avoid the tax, and then he would become a free agent to be able to go sign elsewhere. Now he's 29 years old. He'll be 30 in December. So basically 2 months into the season, he'll be 30 years old. So he's still in that range. You look at last year, he actually had a pretty rough year last year. 6 points, 3 rebounds, and assists on 40% from the field. But this is a guy who's 6'7", 6'8", versatile, kind of, again, that 3-and-D style guy, but, more 3 than the D, pause. But, he's a guy that I think you could slot in at the 2, slot in at the 3, kind of give you some depth, give you some experience, give you some shooting. Like I said, he's a guy that can do a little bit of everything out there on the basketball court. The previous year, so not last year, but the previous year, he actually had a very good year with the Detroit Pistons. So I want to kind of go over the stats here, and then we'll break down kind of his fit a little more. But last year, with the Detroit Pistons, 75 games played, 16 and a half minutes per game, which was down. It was the fewest minutes he's played since his rookie season with Utah, in which he played 14.7 minutes per game. Now, he took 5 field goal attempts, which is the fewest of his career, on 40.2% from the floor, 3-point range on 3 attempts, which is, again, the lowest of his career, shot 33.5%. Now, he is a career 36.3% three-point shooter, counting that 33. With Detroit the previous year, and I'll go over those numbers because I think those are pretty telling numbers, but he shot 43% on 6.3 attempts. Volume, shot 43%. That previous year, too, before he got traded to Detroit in Utah, on 4.7 attempts, so 5 attempts, shot 39.1%. On the season that year, shot 40.1%. Right, so again, with Utah and Detroit, in actual minutes, in an actual role, playing, he was getting 40% from the field. But going over last year, and then I'll go over the stats again, from 2-point range on 2 attempts, which is, again, the fewest of his career, shot 51%, EFG of 50.4%. Free throw shooting, on 1.1 attempts, shot 83.3% from the free throw line, grabbed 3 rebounds, an assist, half a steal, half a block, and 6 points per game. Now, if you look at Detroit when he got there, 16 games played. He played 66 games total, but that was post-trade from Utah. In 16 games played, 30 minutes per game, 12 field goal attempts, so double or little more than double than he did the last year. He shot 48% from the floor. He shot, as I mentioned, on 6.3 attempts, 42.6% from three-point range. On 5.6 attempts from two-point range, shot 54%, had an EFG of 59.2%, and free throw shooting on 1.6 attempts, shot 85% from the floor, 4.4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, half a block, and 15.4 points. He was actually very good in Detroit during that stint. And then, like I said, last year, his role, his minutes, his production, everything kind of dropped in tank. So how much of that was just, again, because you look at Utah and Detroit in that year, between two different teams, which a lot of times you'll see, like, a player will be really good at one team, but terrible at the next. Right? No, he was actually better. He was really good and then much better, which is crazy to think. So how much of it was just, that last year was just a bad year because he didn't get the minutes, he didn't get the shot attempts, so he wasn't able to get into the rhythm, right? Because, like, it's a big difference between when you're getting 12 attempts a game on average and you're getting 5, right? Because you have one bad shooting night, you're not getting as many attempts to kind of climb the ladder and get back to your percentage. So, if you start the season off a little rocky, a little slow, right? And you'll see guys kind of bounce back, and then the law of average kind of kicks in, and then they get back to their average. Well, it's harder to do that when you're only getting 5 attempts a game as opposed to 12. I look at him as a guy that I think could slot in, give you solid minutes. I don't think he's a guy that is going to play, a starting role or anything like that, but he's a guy that I do think is versatile, that you could slot in 2 through 4 on many occasions, on many nights, and just give you some 3-point shooting, give you some abilities out there. He's not a guy, if I'm being honest, that I would make a trade for to bring him on. Right? I don't hate the idea of bringing him on, and I do think he's a guy that could really help, a guy that could play a real role for the Lakers. But to me, I look at him more as like, if the Lakers were to make a, like, let's say Andrew Wiggins, right? And they go and they consolidate a bunch of guys, and you trade Rui, Dalton Connect, and Maxi Kleber or Gabe Vincent, right? Say they do those 3, and it's like, okay, we have a couple roster spots. Sure, then yeah, bring in Simone, right? I'm totally okay with that. He's a guy that I think could slot in, play a role, especially if you end up trading like a Dalton Connect or something like that. Have a guy that can come in and be a shooter, have some experience, be a bit of a veteran guy. Thing is like, he's a guy that came into the league later, right? So even though he's going to be 30, he's not a guy that's played, 10 years in the league, right? His rookie season was the 2022-2023 season, in which he was 27 years old, right? But again, he's a guy that has a couple years under his belt and has given you very similar production when given the role and opportunity, right? And a lot of times that's what it is with these guys, right? So obviously it depends. We'll see what Miami actually ends up doing, if they actually end up waiving him or not. The idea is to waive off him, but they're still looking at trades and moves and stuff. And, there's talks about DeMar DeRozan, like what's going to happen with DeMar DeRozan, and Miami might be interested in DeMar DeRozan. So maybe they kind of add him to that type of trade, or, maybe they look to make a move somewhere and unload his contract if they can. Rather than that, maybe a team would be willing to kind of just absorb his contract, just kind of get a shooter or something. So, we'll kind of see how this plays out for the Miami Heat. But again, if he becomes available and the Lakers can make it work, I don't want them to go make a trade to like open up a roster spot for. I don't think he's one of those guys personally. I think he, like a Nikola Vucevic, somebody like that. Yes, in that case, it's like, okay, I can see that, right? Like you're because then you're not trading just for an Andrew Wiggins, you're trading for like an Andrew Wiggins and a Nikola Vucevic. Like that would be the idea. But Simone, I don't necessarily look at him as like, oh, hey, man, you're going to get Andrew Wiggins and you're going to get a Simone. Like that, again, to me, he's more of like, an added piece that could be potentially a rotation guy, right? But at worst, it's just a guy in a pinch that you can have off the bench that could play a role for you, right? It's like, hey, we need to fill the roster, right? Like, man, should we just bring in Simone? Like, yes, bring him in, let him play a role for you, let him get opportunities. He's a guy that can go give you, as he showed, he can give you 15 a night on average in the right role, right opportunity. And just imagine the quality of looks he would get, right? Playing alongside Luka and LeBron James. I mean, he would the closest is Detroit with Cade Cunningham, right? But I mean, Luka Doncic and LeBron James are just, they're another level, right? So the quality of looks and the opportunity that he would get if you really were to buy into that role, slotted alongside LeBron, slotted alongside Luka Doncic, slotted alongside Austin Reeves, and allowing them to kind of create for Simone, I think that could really be beneficial and really kind of put him in a position to have further success and maybe kind of be a round out guy. He's getting paid $9 million a year, so you're getting a guy that several teams thought was worth $9 million a year that now you'd be able to get for a vet minimum. But let me know your thoughts and opinions. As always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question to you. Let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.